Hi everyone, welcome to my YouTube video. So today we are going to be talking about love. Love is something really important in our lives. Everyone needs love, everyone needs warmth from people. So I decided to make a video about it. Today we're going to discuss Mr. Sternberg's triangular theory of love. Now I want to specify this is just a theory, it's not law, it's not, something that's like set in stone. It can change, it's different, it's just an idea that you can work with. Now, this theory is, as it's written in the name, is a triangle. Now, this triangle is just a metaphor, it's not a strict geometric model, it's just more of an idea. The triangle is made up of three components. They are intimacy or liking, passion or infatuation, and commitment or empty love. Now, let's start with describing what each component is. Intimacy, it refers to feelings of closeness, connectedness, and boundedness in loving relationship. It's that feeling of love and comfort in your relationship, and it's more likely gonna take place when someone is liking you as a friend, for example. It's also like if you like this video. Alright, moving on to passion. So passion refers to the drives that lead to physical attraction, sexual consummation, and related phenomenon in loving relationships. So it's that feeling of fire and chemistry in that relationship. And when you're passionate about someone, it's kind of like when you're infatuated with someone, or more likely when you have a crush on someone that you don't really know, but you think they're very attractive in a physical way. Also, it can be, for example, love at first sight. It's not really love at first sight, it's more like lust at first sight. And it's based purely on physical attraction and chemistry. The last one is commitment. And this type of love is called the empty love because you're just committed to someone. So there are two aspects of commitment. There's the short-term aspect where you make the decision to love someone, and there's the long-term aspect where you commit to maintain that love. The two aspects do not necessarily go together. So for example, you can decide to love someone but not want to really commit to someone for the long term, marry. And then you can commit to in the long run, but then not really decide on loving them. For example, arranged marriages, that's how they start in the beginning. It's very much empty love. There's nothing really about passion or liking because they just don't know each other. They're more just committed to loving or getting married to each other. So these three components do interact with each other. For example, greater intimacy might lead to greater passion or commitment, and they work together. We talked about each of the types of loves by themselves, but what happens when, as I said, they interact with each other? This is when you get more in the complex details of this theory. If you add intimacy and you add passion, which means if you like someone and you have a strong desire for them in a physical manner, that is called romantic love. So romantic love can be seen in people who date, who like each other, and they're passionate towards each other, but they don't really want to commit. They're not gonna, go off and get married. Now, the people who do go off and get married are called being in a fatuous love. So this is kind of like that whirlwind of relationships. More likely couples who will elope, they're very passionate about their love and they're ready to commit right then and there, but they don't really necessarily like each other just because they don't really know each other. The third one is called companion love. Companion love is what happens when, for example, a couple gets married, they get kids, they grow older a little bit, they're in their 30s, each one's doing their own thing. They don't really have that passion and that drive, but they still really like each other and they're still committed to each other. Now, companion love is not a bad thing. it's just, it's just life. Usually, a lot of relationships do go into more of a companion love, and that's why people always say, like, marry your best friend, because this, as we can see, is kind of like a best friend relationship where you like someone and you're committed to being their friend. Kind of like how people in relationships in the long term are. They like each other and they're committed to that love in marriage. The love that everyone wants and everyone dreams of, and that's ideal, is called the consummate love. Now, the consummate love is made up of all three: it's passionate, it's intimate, and it's committed. Consummate love's example would be a couple who are newlyweds. They're passionate on their honeymoon, they're intimate, they like each other, they've been dating or they know each other for a bit, they know how each one is, and they're committed, they just got married. So, consummate love is more like an idealized version of love. It's normally really hard to maintain in the long run. You can have it in spurts during your life or your relationship, but since the components interact with each other are not stable or constant, it's relatively hard to maintain consummate love. But you can definitely work on it. So now that we've understood the different aspects of love, how does this help us in understanding how relationships work? So, as you can see here, the triangles are really used in a way to understand how much couples match each other. So, for example, in the top left image, couples who are perfectly matched in intimacy, passion, and decision or commitment are bound to have a really great understanding of their relationship and are usually bound to have a good relationship in general because they understand what they want from each other. There are couples, for example, who are closely matched, couples who are moderately mismatched, and couples who are severely mismatched. Now, couples who are severely mismatched run into a lot of issues in their relationships, and usually it can be very detrimental to the relationship. These type of couples who go into this category are normally bound to want to lessen the differences by either working on their relationship or from the get-go choosing partners who are on the same sort of wavelength as them. The mismatchedness, of course, can change with time. So, for example, you can go from perfectly matched involvement to closely matched involvements, just because, as we said earlier, the components do interact with each other and they're not stable. And this can be bound to happen in any relationship just because relationships do change with time. Having understood all those different concepts, let's understand why I said earlier that companion love is most likely to take place in relationships after a long time period. So, here on the video, I'm showing you a graph of how relationships with the different components usually go through time. As you can see, passion really does decrease after peaking at the very beginning of a relationship. This is usually when people say, I no longer feel those butterflies, I no longer feel that fire. And that's completely normal. It's not a bad thing to lose a little bit of the passion you had for someone, and it definitely doesn't happen for every single person. This is just more of a generalized idea for general relationships. Now, with the decrease in passion, we can see that commitment does skyrocket very quickly, as well as intimacy. And these two components really make for a good long-term relationship that's more or less more stable than having just a strong passion for someone. So this brings me to my video about how quarantine is affecting our relationships with the people that we care about. And of course, if you want to learn more about this theory, you can check out all the sources that are in the description box. Thank you so much for watching. Please comment any ideas or thoughts that you might have about this theory, and do feel free to subscribe and like for more videos like this. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you next time. Take care.